For many years, I was under the illusion that the Moon People and Lunarians were the creators of the Great Kingdom, as there are so many connections that link to the moon itself. But there is another aspect to this mystery that I haven't really considered, and that is the inclusion of the giants, as I do believe they will play a key role in the Void Century and also have a significance with the Great Kingdom. It was revealed in the aftermath of Ohara that the giants of Elbaf took all of the books from Ohara and brought it back with them, meaning that these guys literally hold all of the secrets in just one location, which is why Elbaf is going to be one of the most important arcs in One Piece history. So today we're going to take a look at how the giants are involved in the Void Century, as well as the ancient giants, as they might play a key role in the creation of the world. First, let's take a look at the giants, specifically the Elbaf ones, as they seem to be based off Vikings and Norse mythology, and while in Norse mythology, the Jotnar, the giants play a significant role in not just Norse mythology, but also Ragnarok, as they are the direct enemies of gods. And in Norse mythology, the Jotnar are actually the creators of the world, or at least the lands in Norse mythology. And this could be the same case here. As we know, the ancient kingdom is actually called the Great Kingdom and was considered to be enormous in size. And something I found interesting is that the legendary Iron Giant does resemble that of a warrior from Elbaf, or even an ancient giant. And similar to the Shandians who followed the sun god, the giants also praise the sun and hold a 12-day festival in honor of it and life, death, and rebirth. So already they have a connection with sun god Nika. And because of Norse mythology, the giants are considered the creators of the world, I do start to think of the ancient giants. As whenever the word ancient is used in One Piece, it usually relates to the Great Kingdom and the Void Century, the ancient text of the poneglyphs, the ancient giants, the ancient kingdom, and even the ancient weapons. So all of these things may be connected, and they do call the ancient giants the continent pullers, so they must have done something to get that name. It was stated by Moria that Oars at one time pulled a bunch of islands together and thus making a home base for his evil band of pirates. But also something many people don't know is that the Red Line is actually constructed of multiple islands stuck together. So maybe for whatever reason, an ancient giant constructed the Red Line and thus later on created God's Land where the Lunarians once stayed. And also there are other giant structures that might have been created by the ancient giants as well, such as the Gates of Justice or even Impel Down. So with their almighty power, the ancient giants may have literally created the world that we know today, and thus the world government are interested in the ancient giants and wanted to recreate them through their experiments. And because the giants in Norse mythology are considered the enemies of God, well, we've heard that term used before a couple of times in One Piece, and that is used to describe the D clan. And so it's possible that the origins of the D clan originate from the ancient giants, or the giants in general. And there are a few hints that may back this up. As we mentioned earlier, they do praise the sun and sun god Nika probably, but also there was that giant straw hat in the basement of Mary Jawah that obviously had to belong to that of a giant. In most cases, whenever a D-Clan member dies, they have a smile before their death, and while we know that giants celebrate death because their life is so long, similar to that of Kaido, they believe death is what completes a person, and a warrior is not defined by his years, but how we die. And we've seen through many cases that this is actually true, as the D-Clan member usually leaves their legacy and someone else picks up their will, like Roger, who even created an entire era of pirates. You could even say the D-Clan members dying with a smile is a part of the legacy and will of Joy Boy. When Mother Caramel is first introduced, saving the giants, she says that she wishes for a world where everyone could hold hands together and laugh while the sun is shining upon her, almost identical to that of the legend of sun god Nika, who's said to bring about joy and smiles wherever he goes. Zunisha was also considered a partner of Joy Boy, and that is a massive elephant, so it would make a lot of sense if Zunisha's companion was also giant in size, and thus Joy Boy also could have been a giant. And it was very interesting that Luffy turned into a giant in Gear 5, which I believe might have been foreshadowing to the true nature of Joy Boy. And once again, Skypiea also could have hinted at this, as you remember the rumor was that there were giants living in the sky because of the shadows, which we now know is because the sun shining on whoever up in the sky creates this giant image like with Luffy at the end of Skypiea. But that could have been a hint. As I was doing some research and I saw the map of Skypiea, there's this little figure that I found to be very interesting. At first that looked like an alien, but at closer inspection looks like a giant warrior with horns and an axe, and as far as I know, there is no person in Shandia or Skypiea that fits this description. Even in the manga, this exact description is shown on the map. So the Skypieans and Shandians might be deeply connected with the giants. And that would make a bit of sense, because if you remember, some of the animals like the south bird and the giant serpent up in Skypiea ended up becoming much larger due to the nutrients and environment up in the sky. So maybe because of this could end up being the origin of the giants as well. We also know the land surrounding Elbaf, called Warland, for whatever reason makes the animals around it extremely large, even goldfish becoming as big as ships. So as it turns out, as we speculated for many years, Elbaf is the territory of red-haired Shanks, but not only that, he's also old friends with Dorry and Broggy, who have returned to the island after 100 years. So it appears that Roger or maybe Shanks ended up going to Little Garden during their journey, as the battle between Dorry and Broggy happened way before Shanks was even born. It's interesting that Shanks thought that Dorry and Broggy had died, meaning to me that the government were trying to hide these two people and that they're probably a lot more important to the overall story and the history of the giants than we initially thought. And Elbaf being Shanks' territory is huge because Shanks has access to the strongest army in the world, but also shows how feared, respected, and powerful he is for him to have the giants under his banner, something Big Mom couldn't even do. So not only do I believe Jaguar D Sol is hiding on Elbaf Island, and he's the one who everyone's looking for, the man marked by flame, and he has the information on the last word poneglyph, that means that Shanks probably knows where the last word poneglyph is as well. But there is a reason Shanks chose Elbaf as his territory. Not only is it the strongest nation in the world, but there probably is a deep secret that connects to the Void Sentry and/or Sun God Nika. It might even be an ancient weapon, and the reason I say so is because Fishman Island and Wano were territories of the other emperors, Big Mom and Kaido respectively. And what was so important about those places? Well, we found out that 2 ancient weapons were on each island. Poseidon was in Fishman Island and Wano had Pluton. So I would not be surprised if Uranus or another ancient weapon was on Elbaf and Shanks was protecting it. This is assuming that the weapon Emu used to eradicate Lelucia Kingdom wasn't Uranus itself. It is interesting that in Norse mythology that the giants are enemies of the gods, and in this case it shares the same similarities where the celestial dragons and the government don't necessarily like the giants, and Elbaf is not associated with the world government at all, but yet Shanks is protecting them, or at least made it his territory, and it's hinted that he himself could be a celestial dragon. In the movie film Red, it's revealed that his name is possibly Figureland, and it's a royal bloodline. And it's also most likely Shanks is based off the god Tyr, the god of war and justice, who was missing a right arm. And despite being a god, in some myths, Tyr is considered to be a giant, which is very interesting, as Shanks, once again, could potentially be a god, but yet he's an Elbaf and all the giants seem to love him. But what makes this island truly special is the possible connection to the Atom Tree. It was stated in legend that the Atom Tree was on an island that was full of war and was rained on by bullets, destroyed until the people kept continuously going back and rebuilding it and basically surrounded the tree, and that is the legend of the Atom Tree. And honestly, based on the name Warland and the culture of the giants, that they relish in war and battle and crave to die an honorable death, I wouldn't be surprised if the Atom Tree was the giant tree that we saw on Elbaf. Considered to be the strongest wood in the world, it would be befitting for it to be located on the strongest island. It's also interesting that the giants of Elbaf considered the actual island itself, or the name, to be that of a god. They always say pray to Elbaf, the god of war, as if it's a living being. So maybe Elbaf is based off of a god from back in the day that they kind of praise to. I found that interesting. If you go back to Little Garden, Dorry and Broggy refer to Elbaf as like it's an entity or a god itself, referring to it as the god of war Elbaf. But things may go deeper than that, as Joy Boy might not have only been a giant, but more specifically an ancient giant, as Or's nickname is called the Devil, and that is what the Celestial Dragons consider the D-Clan. The rumor of Ors was that he was an evil pirate that collected islands and created a home base and caused pure tyranny, but ended up dying with little to no clothing in a cold area, and his shoulder was severely injured. I think this is pure government propaganda and absolute bullshit. Whenever the government or rumors claim someone is evil or a devil, 9 times out of 10, this is false. And most likely the other way around, and Ors Jr. is a perfect example of this. He seems to be a very kind and wholesome person, and even goofy at times, who treasured his straw hat that was made for him by Ace. Because of how tall he was, it helped cool him down and not let the elements of the world get in his way. And then there was Ors that Gecko Maria found and froze him to preserve his body, similar to that of the Straw Hat in Mary Joie. But once Gecko put Luffy's shadow in Ors, he acted very similar to that of Luffy. And in hindsight, this might have been foreshadowing from Oda to show that Joy Boy was actually an ancient giant. He was naive, he was curious, and just wanted to go on an adventure and become a pirate, although of course this was Luffy's shadow. This could have been intentional on Oda's part. And then there's volume 48 with Luffy in front of Ors, and his teeth kind of made it look like Luffy had horns. And back in the day when I first caught up in 2008-2009, many people believed that this was a hint from Oda saying that Ors is connected to Luffy and the D-Clan. Some even saying years later that Ors is actually Joy Boy. Though that itself shouldn't be true because Ors died 500 years ago, and at his death he was 159, so he couldn't be Joy Boy. But we do know there's at least 3 Ors that walked around the earth. This isn't the first time people theorized a volume cover was hinting at greater things in the future, with volume 27 having Luffy with angel wings and winking, and well, we're seeing how that's unfolding as Nika and the D-Clan might have been connected to the Skypians. And for a brief moment, I'd like to talk about Kaido, as he might be a key factor in all of this. So unfortunately, we didn't learn any of the lineage of Kaido during Wano, but it does kind of hint he might have been a part of the ancient giants, due to how he looks and taking refuge over on Onigashima, which looks like the giant skull of an ancient giant. Many even theorizing that the ancient giant created Wano, or might have even protected it back in the day. But anywho, King at one point believed Kaido to be Joy Boy and destined to change the world forever. Unfortunately, this turned out to be false, and Kaido was waiting for the day Joy Boy would return and defeat him. But then you gotta wonder why King thought Kaido of all people was Joy Boy. It can't be just because he saved him in that laboratory. It has to be deeper than that, as the Lunarians seem to also be waiting for the return of Joy Boy. And why would he think Kaido of all people was Joy Boy unless the description matches what Kaido kinda looks like? But regardless, I still believe the Moon People are a key factor in the Void Century and the creators of the Great Kingdom, but I can't deny that there aren't connections with the Giants and Ancient Giants with the Void Century, and that it could have been them who were their rightful rulers. But that is the video. Something interesting I remembered is that Ors is called Special Zombie 900, and we know the Ancient Kingdom was a thing 900 years ago. It would be such a Oda thing for him to foreshadow the Ancient Giants' involvement 900 years ago through this way. Now, me personally, I think everything links back to the Skypians, but that doesn't mean the idea of the Great Kingdom and the Giants can't coexist. Maybe the Giants ruled over the Great Kingdom while the Skypians were their own thing. For all we know, Joy Boy might not even be involved with the Great Kingdom. I think he is, but it's still a possibility. It's also possible the Giants are a direct result of the experimentation done by the Great Kingdom. As Vegapunk mentions in chapter 1069, all desires of the humans will take form in this world, and that devil fruits are basically created by the mere thought of, what if this could happen, what if he could do this, what if he could be that. And well, we know, as I've been saying for a long time, that Vegapunk is just simply recreating or catching up to the technology of the Great Kingdom that also involves the giant experimentation. So it's possible maybe the Great Kingdom tried to create giants as people wanted to become bigger or have longer lifespans. In fact, Vegapunk's devil fruit theory could also be the origin of different races in the world, like the minks, the fishmen, the giants, so many things. But I'll talk about that in a separate video. Of course, I hope you guys enjoyed it. Don't forget to like, share, subscribe, and click the bell icon to stay notified. Put in the comments what you guys think. Otherwise, I hope you guys have a good day and a good night. I'll catch you guys on the next one. Peace.